The separation of religion and government. It's a phrase you've heard us say at the start of basically every show we've run for years. But what does it really mean? Well, it's part of the mission statement of the ACA, and it represents our support of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment of the United States. That not only should the law be protected from the overreach of religion, but religion itself be protected from the overreach of the government. And this is a concept that's so important that your forefathers fought a war of independence against mine to enshrine it into law. And now I am here among you. I live under the auspices of that document and will one day swear an oath to protect it. So while I may debate epistemology with a believer as to the reasons why they believe, if they hold that concept to be true, then I will stand proudly shoulder to shoulder with them in defense of people's right to believe what they wish without the interference of the law. And with the rise of Christian nationalism in the halls of power, make no mistake that the battle lines have been drawn. That it behooves those of us that care not only about the freedom from religion, but the freedom of religion, to act decisively and be proactive, lest complacence be our undoing. And if you believe, in contrary to us, that God's law is sovereign over man, that we should live by scripture rather than reason, and that justice is the sole domain of the divine, then you should call us, because the show starts now.
Hello, everybody. It is January 19th, 2025. I am Objectively Dan. Joining me today is Jamie the Blind Limey, and you're watching Talk Heathen. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. What's that? Not Talk Heathen, the atheist community of Austin. Nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And of course, Talk Heathen is in fact a live call-in show created by the atheist community of Austin, which is live right now and has open lines. So you should definitely check that out if you want to talk to us. It's 512-991-9242, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/callth if you want to talk to us, because we do have some open lines right now. And another way to support the show, if you haven't already, is by giving us super chats. If you get it in the chat, then we will, read some of those out loud as the show goes on. I don't think we have a super chat challenge for today, but we're always looking for new ideas for that. So if you guys have an idea for a super chat challenge, give us a comment below.
Oh no, I've got one.
You got one?
I was challenged on the last show that I did to say the name of the longest town name in Europe, and I messed it up. But I've learned it now, so if you put in 10 super chats, then I might say it at the end of the show, if you're lucky.
I think we're doing 10 super chats of $5 or more. 10 super chats of $5 or more, we'll get it done. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, that's it. We're good. We are live. We're ready to go. Jamie, the Blind Limey, joining me today. What's up, Jamie? Been a minute.
I found that I am Schrodinger's influencer. I am both cringe and based at the same time, and I'm just waiting for the waveform function to collapse.
Okay. That's how long were you sitting on that one? Because you definitely didn't just come up with that on the spot. That was too thought out.
I prepare for these shows in advance. I'm just sitting there like, what weird thing can I say to put my co-host off their game?
That's a pretty weird thing to say.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. So you got me. Good job with that. There's a lot of talk right now because of the TikTok ban that's currently happening. So my hope with that is that because TikTok isn't accessible to at least folks in the US, that, they'll come watch our show instead because they got nothing better to do on a Sunday afternoon today, right? So yeah, come talk to us and let us know your thoughts on just, religion and the like. If you've seen this show before, you know what we talk about, what's going on. So I do see that we at least have one caller that is almost ready to talk to us. Not quite, but we do have open lines. So, give us a call if you want to chat. Otherwise, it's just going to be the Jamie and Dan shooting the shit show, which is its own separate could be podcast. But isn't generally the point of Talk Heathen? Generally, we talk about other stuff, right? So, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, basically, as the cold open things like me, Angie, me want talk people who are like all up in the whole God is better than the government kind of thing, because I am afraid. I truly am afraid of what's going to happen over the next few years. And I mean it when I say I'm going to swear that oath. I will become a citizen in the near future, because I am tired of being a passenger on this train and having no say on when I get off, when I get on, what happens on it. I'm kind of getting an appreciation for your forebears who said no taxation without representation.
You're going to go against your ancestry. You're going to go against your British.
Like I say, I've chosen. I'm here on purpose.
Crown worshipping ancestors.
Yep, I'm here on purpose.
Rebellion.
I'm here on purpose. You can't get rid of me. You have to deport me, which is actually far more likely than it used to be.
All right, anyway. He said it, not me. We have to deport him now. No. So that's what's going to happen, I think. But anyway, hey, folks, we do have a segment that happens every week on Talk Heathen. It is called Talk Heathen to Me, and it is where we get to ask you guys a question or a prompt, and then we read some of the best answers from that. Last week, we asked you, sin is to God as what is to what? And here were our top 3 answers for that. Number 3 comes from Mount Taylor Paul. I'm assuming it's Mount. It could be MT Taylor Paul, but I like Mount Taylor Paul, so I'm going to go with that. Who says, sin is to God as raisins are to raisin bread. They're baked in, part of the recipe. They're meant to be there. Raisins are good. Thanks, J. Mike. And you know what? I do like raisin bread, and I do like raisin cookies. I know a lot of people aren't about that life.
I'm on your side. Oatmeal raisin better than chocolate chip, and I will die.
You like it better than chocolate chip? That's a hot take.
I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, you can fight about that in the comments, I suppose, to see if we're wrong about that. But I don't know if I'd say it's better. I'd say it's good, though. I do like it. Number 2 comes from Hell's Bells, who said, sin is to God as CrossFit is to bro dudes. And I don't know, there's a lot, I don't know how I feel about that, because CrossFit it's not just a bro dude thing. I think you see a lot of people across the gender spectrum committed to CrossFit. It's always just the most annoying people, I think that's the common denominator.
I have opinions on CrossFit, but I won't share them because rich coming from someone who looks like a clear plastic bag full of vanilla pudding. So I'll keep my opinions to myself.
Okay, that's fair. It's a free country. You can say what you want unless it's on TikTok, right? So, just do what you want with that. Number 1 this week comes from Leith Crowther, who says, sin is to God as lightning rods are to Benjamin Franklin. That might be Leith Crowther, actually, but I don't know. But yeah, sin is to God as lightning rods are to Benjamin Franklin. Was that a myth? Is that one of those things that you hear about and then you find out later was totally BS?
I would say so, because the whole I held a key up in a lightning, I put a key on a kite. Like if he got struck, he'd be very, very, very dead.
Yeah, yeah, that's got to be not real. You always hear these stuff about not presidents, because Benjamin Franklin was a president, but founding fathers, about all these cool shit that you did, and then you hear realize like half of it is BS.
Yeah, chop down the cherry tree and all. Topically, it's a whole thing like, was Jesus real? Maybe. Did he come back from the dead? Probably not. It's like, was George Washington real? Probably.
What's true about Benjamin Franklin, though? He was into MILFs.
Yeah, French MILFs specifically.
He was super into that, which I respect it. I respect it. He was doing the red pill stuff, like giving advice to people about how to date women, but it was exclusively for cougars. It wasn't for any other kind of person. So
he knew on which side his baguette was buttered. Yes.
Shout outs to Benny Frank. You think if Benjamin Franklin was around today, you think he'd be like an Elon Musk type, or do you think he'd be like a like a red pill
I don't know.
guy.
I think he was a bit more sort of enlightened than that, but he'd definitely go on the Joe Rogan podcast and Joe would be like,
Dude,
yeah, because
Ben,
that's all he does.
Benny Frank on Joe Rogan. I can see it. Yeah. Wow. Such times we live in. Anyway, let me check. We do have some people that want to talk to us, and we should probably talk to them, don't you think? I mean, This is a call-in show,
Give it a go, yeah.
I think before I do that, though, I should give the prompt for next week, because I almost didn't do that. And the prompt for this next week, if you want to participate and have your comment read out loud, is: if the New Testament were a comedy, how would it have ended? So leave your best answers below. If the New Testament were a comedy, how would it have ended? What do you think, Jamie? Do you have an answer for this one?
Well, since my favourite version of the Bible is the King James, and that was brought out at the same time as the Bard, then it would end with a wedding. That's a literary joke.
I don't know that I got that. Do I not? Am I just dumb? Do I not understand the joke there?
Shakespeare comedies always end with a wedding.
Oh, okay. Right. All right. I'm sorry I'm not as cultured as you are, Jamie.
I'm stunting on you, Dan. I'm styling on you. Anyway.
I was too busy thinking about the hypothetical Benjamin Franklin Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah,
I think I was a little distracted with that. But anyway, we also have a super chat that I should read out from Miranda Rensberger, given $10, who said, I would 100% watch the Jamie and Dan Shooting the Shit podcast. Hey, there it is, folks. There's not enough podcasts in the world. We have to make more of them.
Not enough white dudes doing podcasts. We need another one.
That's a new market. No one's ever done that before. I mean, geez. I'm very self-conscious about that, by the way. Whenever I tell people, well, what do you do with your free time? It's like, well, I do podcast stuff. It's like, it's not something I take a lot of pride in. It's more like an embarrassing secret that people find out about me, because it's like, you don't want to be. I don't want to be that guy. There's such variance in quality in that, But
look, you're not fresh and fit, and that's the point. So that's
right.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of There's a lot of people out there who are making content that, in my opinion, should not be making content. So. But that's just me. I'm a hater, right? So what can you do about that? But anyway, I think now is the time we dial it in and talk to some people. We got a couple of people who want to talk to us, and I think we can start. You want to go more topical? Let's do, I guess, a topical one. I'm not sure how much this directly relates to Talk Heathen, other than the fact that, I don't know, we do talk about freedom of speech a lot. But here's Dave calling in from California, wants to talk to us a bit more about the TikTok ban. Dave, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me today. I heard you were short on callers, so I figured I'd give you guys a phone. Hey, Jamie, nice to talk to you again.
Hello.
I know you know me. How you doing today?
Fine. I have
and
learned.
You too, Dan.
I have learned to recover from a compressor stall in the F-14A, so I'm quite good. Anyway, what's on your mind, man?
It sounds like you really need that the
thing,
the dial thing that my uncle. I don't even know what the fuck it's called, but my uncle said he wanted me to send it to you, and I got to get it in the mail.
Okay. Well, what's on your mind, dude?
Also, found out another thing I have in common with you. Love oatmeal raisin over chocolate chip.
All right, that's another one for the oatmeal raisin over chocolate chip. This is a very segmented bias population here, because I truly think if you ask most people, they would go the other way. But you know what? You like what you like, and that's love, baby. So keep it rolling.
I dig it. So,
all right, Dave, what you got
regarding
for us?
the TikTok? Regarding the TikTok ban, I feel like it is more of a political power play than anything else, especially considering, because they had the vote in Congress, but it wasn't that Congress, it was enforcing any kind of ban. TikTok specifically said, we're going to go dark on Sunday unless Biden gives them some kind of assurance that he's not going to enforce it. And I don't know if you heard, but right now, as we're speaking, the ban is in the process of being lifted because Biden announced that he's going to let the next administration deal with it. So again, it was all just a power play. It's all just a fucking move to just they were just trying to show the government that they were making an unpopular decision because the populace does not like it.
Yeah, and the thing is that I very much am opposed to the TikTok ban. I post on there, and I'm an opponent of it now. Of course, like all social media, it's a corporate entity, and like we can't lionize them too much, you know. But my experience on TikTok has actually been quite relevant to my work here with the ACA, because a lot of the things that I have been experiencing are live broadcasts of Christians and Muslims trying to do debates. Maybe that's just my algorithm, but a lot of people on there are religious. A lot of people on there are trying to engage with the public on things, and I would defend that. Like, I'm not trying to put people down who want to try and share their beliefs on this thing. I'm happy for them. It also gave me, and hopefully will in the future, gave me a vector to engage and to try and, you know, come at it from the other side. Because, of course, I'm here on the show kind of in a position of power almost. Like, people call in to us and we can put the phone down on them and it's our show. I like the dynamic where I'm calling into them and I have to defer to them, because that's the kind of dynamic that forces you to be careful with your words. So I'm hoping that TikTok does stay so I can continue to engage with religious people in that way.
Yeah, I'm of two minds about this because of one. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, no. By all means. I was just saying I agree. That's literally all I was saying.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, like, I'm of two minds of this because on the one hand, TikTok is an absolute hellhole of misinformation and of dangerous stuff that has definitely gotten people the wrong idea about literally everything. But on the other hand, I don't like, like, it is relevant. Here's how I'm circling. Here's how I'm making this square a circle and making this part of Talk Heathen. Okay, TikTok is one of the mediums by which the atheist community of Austin gets its message out there, right? We have to compete in the marketplace of ideas just like everybody else, right? And taking that medium away takes away a very specific demographic. Not me. I don't really go on TikTok, but there's a billion other people that go on TikTok. And Richard, our show producer, is doing lives even today before the show on TikTok, like he does every single Sunday, because that entices people to watch and get involved and be a part of the conversation. So, like, this sort of top-down approach, the idea is that it's for security is absolute, bullshit, because I've been to Europe. Okay. And when you go to Europe and you log in to any website ever, they ask you all the things that they can take your information for, because they actually have regulations for that shit here. Okay. We don't have any of that kind of stuff in the US. So it's never been about that. It's always been a little bit more of a scare tactic, I think, for Chinese influence and stuff in the US. There's a lot more of that than a lot of the reasons that go out there. So yeah, I don't know. It's very silly. We'll see what happens with it, but yeah, I don't know. Somebody's going to get accolades for this, and it's not going to be the people we like, I think.
No, that's the thing that kind of annoys me.
I was also talking with Alyssa and Promise the other day on this one on Chewed Gum, because the conversation about Pornhub got brought up, and that Pornhub is banned in Florida, but I was trying to add a little bit of corrective information there. It's not that Pornhub was banned in Florida. Pornhub pulled out of Florida, pun intended.
Same in Texas, yeah.
Ron DeSantis just signed a bill into law requiring porn distributors to verify age via having users upload their driver's license and requiring distributors to track that data. And Pornhub said, no, we will not track user data this way. You can go without porn.
Yeah. And for good reason. I mean, like, server-side verification tools of that nature are building a database of people's personal information and driver's licenses is just an invitation to hackers. Pornhub and sites like it that are making a stand on this are in the right, in my opinion, because user-side age verification is what should be being done from an internet security standpoint. And again, it's the puritanical overreach, it's the saber rattling, it's the whole like wagging the finger. And again, this is why, again, to reference the cold open, this is what I'm fearing from the encroachment of Christian specifically, but religious in general, elements into the way that our lives are being dictated by law. And like, I feel like I live in Mordor. Like, I'm 4 miles away from the Capitol building of Texas, the reddest spot on the map. And I'm like, we should do something about it. So I'm hoping that through our work here, we can have some kind of impact to get like the puritanical, the dogmatic out of the law and bring reason back in so we can make proper decisions on things like privacy and security.
Jamie, I'm sorry, you haven't been living in this country long enough if you think that's going to happen.
No, I don't.
It's just not.
Allow me to have a tiny shred of hope. Just a tiny shred. Anyway.
I did though think that this was a great highlight of the hypocrisy of these same puritanical lawmakers, because the same people who are rattling their sabers against the TikTok and how China might be collecting our data are trying to enforce our own companies to collect data. So they care about who collects data as long as it's them.
Yes, 100%. No, that's part of it. I mean, like the whole hypocrisy stuff, nobody cares about that anymore. That's the problem. Nobody cares. Everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody's doing dumb stuff. Like the bad part about this is that people are going to see this ban and they're not even going to know who to blame. They're already shifting, recently on the TikTok app, they already changed the message talking about how the president-elect Trump is going to, try to fix things or whatever. They put that messaging on there, right? I'm just reporting what they're talking about here. That's not even, that's a narrative within itself that's already going to be pushed out there, regardless of its truth value, right? Like it doesn't matter. We're not a country that does research. We're not a country that is going to figure out the truth of things or reason things out or figure out who's doing what. We're just going to see the headlines and that's it. That's how most people, or at least half of people, make their decisions around here. And that's the reality that we live in until something is done about that, which is a sad prospect, but I just think is the truth that we live in right now. So I don't know what to do about that. I don't think we can be the saviors of that. Unfortunately, we can do what we can, but all we can do is really talk about it and bitch about it on podcasts. I guess that's what we're doing.
We can, but like if anything overtly religious does come up in legislation, which I anticipate it will, that's when we can step in. I mean, the ACA has a specific mission and a specific remit and a bounding box in which we can operate. But within that, I think that it behooves us again to be proactive. If it's overtly like we're gonna start putting God's law into your law, and that's why you can't look at boobs or whatever. That's something we can fight against. That's something we can stand up against, and that's a frivolous concept. But we are looking at people justifying the degradation and denigration of marginalized people, LGBT and trans community, and atheists and other religious communities, because book says so, because God says so. And that's where we can be a bulwark against that. And I'm hoping that it doesn't happen, that we don't have to. But if it does, I'm happy to step in.
Yeah, well, we'll keep on.
I voted for Larry Flint in 2003. I voted for Larry Flint in 2003. I thought he had the best ideas for the First Amendment at the time, but I was 19. So I had other reasons for liking Hustler at the moment.
Yeah, well, let's just say I don't know. People have made worse decisions at 19, maybe. So you know, we can just leave it at that.
Hey,
Anyway, Dave, I think that's all the time that we got for you today.
That's how I voted.
Any last words you want to add before we let you go today?
No, it was a great call. Thanks for having me, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your show.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate you calling in. Yeah. And yeah, of course, it is the reality we live in. We have to navigate our political conversations very carefully because we are a product of a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Yeah. So, you know, our speech is already limited.
We're politically neutral. We don't approve of or denigrate any particular party or person, but we do have opinions on standpoints, especially as it comes to when religion gets involved, and that's where I'm going to be pointing my sights if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is the reason why some people are Christian. TikTok is the reason why some people became atheists. Like it's a big mover and shaper in regards to people's personal beliefs, not just religious, obviously, but political and otherwise. So that censorship, that taken away of that is a big deal. It does affect us. So I'm glad we could talk about it. But it does make me feel very powerless talking about these things, doesn't it?
It can make you feel quite impotent when we scream as one, thousands and thousands of voices all united and are completely ignored by those in power. Well,
but you know what I do have the power to do, Jamie?
What's that?
Is pick the next call that we should talk to. But before we do that, we should actually read a couple super chats that also came in between that time. One from Herbie Shine, who gave £5 and said, "I love Jamie's sense of humor, always so funny, silly, and clever. Always makes me laugh at unexpected moments." What a nice comment you got there.
Very nice. And I agree with one of those three. I am very silly.
We got another one, $1.99 from Jonathan France, who said, "I love Jamie's sense of humor even more." So, you know, Jamie, you got a lot of positivity going your way. Yeah, a lot of pressure.
You make me blush.
Don't fuck up now. All right, you understand? You got to keep being funny. All right, or that's it. You're out.
I reserve the right to completely flame out and freak out. Maybe it will happen.
Okay. All right. Well, if you say so. Yeah, that being said, before I keep going as well, I should probably, talk to you guys a little bit about some of the other stuff that we got going on here as well. If you want to help the show in the many different ways that you can help us. One of it is through taking in flyers. Yeah, flyers. You know, that's a thing that people still look at sometimes. If you want to post any flyers in your community with that community's permission, of course, if you go to china.cc/ACA flyers, we do have printable flyers to get more people to call into the show and defend their faith. You know, come talk to us about it. Make us Christians. Why not? Let's do it. If you do post any flyers, be sure to snap a picture of it and send it to tv@atheist-community.org. And we can feature some of that in, an upcoming show. So do that if you want to get more callers in, especially more interesting callers, right? Yeah. Interesting calls, I should say. All of our callers are interesting. Okay, let's make that clear. We always have the best calls. Okay, no, I'm not gonna do that.
But
not gonna do that.
That phrase, "make us Christian," does, like, one of the things about religious people that I am insanely jealous about is that the fact that they can think it's all part of the plan. Like, God has a plan for us. Like, even through the worst of times, it's for a reason. And I can't bring myself to believe that. Oh, but I wish I could sometimes, man.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, if God's real, at least I want to know about it, right? So, why not try to convince me of that?
Yeah.
But also, real quickly, I should say we have merch if you want to support that as well. T-shirts, hoodies, crop tops, you name it. Go to china.cc/merch-ACA if you want to check out some of that delicious Talk Heathen merch. I know it's January now, but hey, it's not too late to send that Christmas gift to the person you forgot about. If you want to, make it up to them some way. Talk Heathen merch, great way to do it. And last but not least, just a reminder for folks to like and subscribe and do all the fun stuff that YouTubers tell you to do, because it does help us out in the engagement and, getting our word out there, getting the good word out there. I'd say, right? But anyway, with that being said, let's talk to our next caller. We have Danny, who wants to talk to us from Virginia. Danny, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Nothing much, man. Just calling in. Guys, got a pressing question for you. I just wanted to know what's so bad about God. Been watching you guys' show for a while, and you guys seem to have a very strange attitude towards the Lord. And I was just wondering why.
I think somebody who would you have it if somebody killed thousands of people on their own whim? Would you find it strange if somebody said that was, odd or weird? Or wondering why that should be? Because I don't think so. I think if somebody killed a bunch of people, you should question that person's character. You should probably say, hey, maybe this isn't something that we should look towards or worship towards. But that seems to be what Christians do. And God is, not only responsible for the death of not tens, not hundreds, but thousands of people. And if you add it up right, potentially millions. So that's one thing, right? Of course, I don't actually believe God is real, right? That would be if he was real. But, the main problem, of course, we have as atheists is that we don't have a lot of reasons to, believe that he's real in the first place. And if he was real, then he'd probably be a moral monster. He probably would be somebody that we wouldn't want to be on the same side with anyway. He seems to make decisions that would be morally questionable to a lot of people, such as myself and other non-believers. So a lot of reasons not to like God there. What do you think?
So that argument is completely absurd, and I'll tell you why in a second. So you have to understand that even though you're saying he killed thousands of people, where there's just no evidence for that. But if he did, he also gave birth to billions of people. So if we're talking about
somebody that gives birth is okay with killing other people, then if I give birth to billions of people, it's okay if I kill other people.
Yeah, what's a couple thousand here and there? I mean, if you're actually growing human beings and making more human beings, then he has.
What's a couple thousand here and there?
If he pleases.
What's killing a couple thousand people here and there, right?
Making them mother
as long as you're making more people.
Can't fret over every egg.
Yeah. No, I just think that's absurd, right? And the evidence for God killing people, by the way, is in the Bible. Right? Like if you're a Christian anyway, that's who God is. And if you believe the words of the Bible, then God has killed people. That's not even a contestable fact, really. Like that's just already present. But no, I think that logic is absurd. I think if you value human beings and if you think killing people is generally wrong, I don't see how giving birth or creating more people justifies you killing people. That doesn't really make sense.
I mean, it's a net positive, though. That's like billions over thousands of people is a net positive.
So, Danny, are you a believer? Are you a theist? Do you believe in a God, at least? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, to us, God is a fictional character, but the importance of God is that people believe that he's real and their beliefs inform their actions. And the thing is that the character of God as portrayed in the Bible and also the Quran and many other scriptures is a morally reprehensible being, precocious, jealous, rageful, prideful, inconsistent. And to modern believers, he's an absentee father. He came in, did some shit and fucked off, and we don't know where he is anymore. The problem of divine hiddenness is always with us. And so when people justify their own bigotry, hatred, violence, because God said so, and they do, now and in history, we do not countenance it. There are so many things that have happened because God said so. But it's just an excuse for the worst parts of humanity to come out. The battlefields of the history are littered with the bodies of young men who've thought God on their side. So why should we give any reverence to this concept that is God when it's been used to do heinous things for thousands of years?
I hear what you're saying. So what you're trying to say is that God is simply causing war without reason. Is this correct?
I'm saying that
not God causing war. People believing in God will often do things,
Yeah, well-
enact because of their
God
religious
can-
beliefs,
God
or will
can
believe
no
that
more
God is on their side in any conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, God can no more cause wars than Optimus Prime can, because they're both fictional characters as far as I can see.
Well, that's not true.
Okay, evidence, please.
Evidence for God being true.
For God being real, yeah, please.
Okay, well, okay. I'll give you this. So if you go for 3 days, and I guarantee you haven't done this before. If you go for 3 days, you get down on your knees and pray, God will reveal himself to you. You've done it to me. He's done it for other countless theists. Have you actually gone for 3 days on a retreat, and in your humility in your final hour of the 3 days, has God revealed himself to you? Can you answer that, please?
I've been a Christian for more than half of my life, and I used to serve in ministry where I would work at church camps, for example, and spend entire summers literally worshiping God 5 days out of the week and praying every single day, in not just with myself, but in accordance with other Christians. And God has never shown me any definitive signs of his existence.
It just sounds like, you weren't really devoted to the faith.
There it is. There it is. I wasn't a good enough Christian. And that seems to be the case for every single person who's ever left Christianity, isn't it? That they're just not good enough Christians. They just haven't prayed hard enough, or they haven't just done the right things. Unfortunately, this isn't an issue just with Christianity. Muslims also make the same excuse for people who leave Islam. Mormons do the same thing, right? Scientologists even have a version of this where they don't, believe in stuff hard enough. I mean, this is just an excuse rather than actually showing definitive proof. Because if God was real, I think that would be universal. I think that would be an experience that would be accessible to anybody. It's not like Jesus was walking around invisible to some people who wasn't believing in him, right? Like, allegedly he was a real person that walked around and did the stuff that he did. I don't see why God couldn't do the same thing. Why is he only accessible to those who have to pray for him for 3 days straight rather than just make himself known? It doesn't make sense to be. And here's why. It's because he's probably not real. I think it's a figment of people's imaginations. I think it's a figment of people's devotion to something and wanting to believe in something greater than themselves. And, I think that's just the reality we live in.
Yeah, you think that's called special pleading. You're specially pleading here.
What?
I hate to break it to you, but what do you mean, what?
What? We're not special pleading. That's the purview of the religious. The whole, the universe must have a start, but God doesn't have a start. That kind of thing.
I literally gave you an example of my devotion. And rather than accepting it as, oh, maybe this is counter evidence to anything I've ever claimed here, you're just saying, well, you didn't do it right. You didn't do it hard enough. And the fact is, I'm not the only person who's ever claimed to have ever been a Christian either.
How many how many people have died in agony with God's name on their lips, praying, crying out for relief? How many parents wishing that their child wasn't sick, bringing up prayers, but God's just going to let them die of that glioblastoma because it's all part of the plan, isn't it? It's all God's will. Because it's all very convenient. If you pray and you don't get an answer, it's because you didn't believe hard enough, or there's a reason for it, or mysterious ways. Never an explanation, never an actual reason. Just you weren't good enough. And we don't accept that. And if God is real, and that's how he operates, that he hears the cries of the faithful and ignores them for some grand plan, then I will walk backwards into hell with both of my middle fingers up, knowing that my sins are far less than his.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you think you're so oriful, you think you're so cool, walking backwards. But in reality, the eternity you're spending in hell, it's not going to be worth it. It give you 2 seconds, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, please, let me come back, please." Like, let's be honest here. No one's going to be happy in hell knowing that they're better than God. All right, that's absurd, completely absurd. Come on, you're honest here. We're talking about an eternal torture, and you're going to be happy being there, knowing that you're better than my God? Are you kidding me?
So is this where we're laying at that, oh, no, you're not really going to be happy we're in hell, instead of the whole, whether God is even real thing?
I'm going there anyway. I can't stop it. If I don't believe in God, I go there. So there's I may as well make the best of it as I can.
You're going to make the best of it. You're going to make the best of having your toenails ripped off at every moment in aching pain, bro. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're so dishonest. It's just sad, honestly. It's honestly just quite sad.
Wow, the condescension is strong with this one.
So are you going to show us why we should believe in God, or
believe that hell's actually real? I mean, you threaten
or even care that hell is even a thing?
You can no more threaten me with hell than with the flipping shadow realm. Like, it's a fake place. It's an imaginary place. And also, which hell? I mean, are you certain that your God's the real one? Because there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, well, I believe in the 9 layers of hell. I believe in Dante's Inferno interpretation of hell. I believe that you go from limbo to like the nice atheists or whatever, which aren't you guys, by the way, and then you go to lower down and lower down.
I think this guy's trolling us a little bit.
Yeah, definitely a troll.
Yeah,
nice try.
Like, Dante's Inferno is a story. It's not scripturally accurate. It's actually basically a roast of certain popes and the like. So if Dante's Inferno is your idea of hell, then my idea of hell is, I don't know, robot hell from Futurama, because they're both as fictional as each other.
I do believe that, but that's besides the point. That's a whole other argument, to be honest with you.
Why do you believe? No. Please tell us what scriptural evidence is there that Dante's Inferno, which is our story, it's the storybook. It's actually fan fiction. Like, I'm going to go through hell with my favorite poet from Greek history.
Inspired. It was divinely inspired.
And you're going to have to give us some evidence of that, Chief. You know.
Yeah, Danny, I honestly no. I'm going to cut to the chase. I think you're a troll. I don't think you're a real person. If you want to be sincere in your beliefs, you have 30 seconds to prove that to me or less. Otherwise, I'm just going to drop the call now.
Well, yeah. So you see, Dante's Inferno it appeared to him in a dream.
Yeah, he's not.
All right, yeah,
serious.
it's not even real. All right, well, bye.
Sorry. Feel free to call back.
It was kind of obvious. Very silly.
If you can give us something better than that, and you can try and call us back, but meh.
Otherwise, we'll just keep grandstanding and just talking about how we'll stick our middle fingers up while walking backwards into hell, every time, I guess. I don't know. This is silly. What do you do with that, Jamie?
I don't know. I mean, I have noticed that there is an uptick in trolling callers to shows, our shows and shows like them. And I think it's just because after all this time, the believers that know that they are only working on their own personal revelation and have no evidence to give us are just afraid to call in because they know they're just going to be asked for something that they can't give. And the only ones that are left are the people who want to just have a bit of screen time and poke us and go. So, yeah, it's disappointing, the lowering of the caliber of interlocutors that we are working with now. And it would be a shame if shows like ours became less necessary, not because we'd solved any problems. It's just because everyone else is either too chicken shit or too silly to actually have a decent conversation.
Yeah, probably so. It's a real shame. But I want to talk to our next callers here. So let's hopefully get a real call here. We have one from Steve, who's calling in from Nebraska. And I hope Steve is being sincere. You're here in their belief. Steve, you're live on Talk Heathen. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Happy MLK weekend, everyone. Hi, Dan and Jamie. For allowing me this call to present the trees and craters of evidence suggesting a mile-high biblical flood occurred approximately 4,800 years ago.
All right. Lay it on me thick here. So there's trees and there's craters, and somehow that's evidence for a mile-high flood 4,800 years ago.
Right. The measure of the mile-high biblical flood's extent is determined where the freshly plucked olive branch returned to the ark by Noah's carrier dove gauges water levels elevating near the world's most highly elevated olive trees, situated 5,000 feet above sea level. A mile-high biblical flood occurring roughly 4,800 years ago is evident by the fact every 4,800-plus year old tree alive today, recently lived half-decamillennium aged tree is rooted at least a mile above sea level. These trees being bristlecone pine trees of the Great Basin and cypress trees of Alerce Costero National Park in Chile. Moreover, a comet strike occurring roughly 4,800 years ago, cratering Turcos crater, Sudanese Red Hills crater, the Mohas crater, the Kamel crater, Ramgarh crater of India, and the Hembury craters of Australia evidently formed a mega tsunami wave higher than the 3-mile-high mega tsunami wave impacting Lituya Bay of Alaska in 1958.
Okay. Let's stop right there. Let's go back a second. So, a crater forming, a crater hitting the Earth and then causing tsunamis, like that could possibly happen, right? That's not the same thing though as God flooding the Earth, right, and then killing all sentient life on it, including the animals and whatnot, right, and then having that flood subside and then having the Earth repopulate based on, 2 of every species, right? That's kind of a different thing. Wouldn't you agree?
The Bible doesn't actually. Bible was global from Noah's perspective, obviously a mile high. It from Noah's perspective would seem to be a worldwide flood. In actuality, it would have to be a 5-mile high flood to be truly global, to cover the top of Mount Everest. And then the Bible doesn't actually say that the Hebrew word for earth doesn't necessarily mean globe. In fact, the ancients thought that they were flat earthers thought that the globe, they didn't even have a concept of a global flood. They just thought, the Earth was like.
Well, the understanding of most, if not all, Christians, specifically, and many other religions as well, you might want to ask Jews whether the Torah goes with this, is that it was a global flood that was intended to wipe out all of humanity, barring this one family.
Right. The story goes that all humans, right, were crooked except for Noah's family, not just like the humans in the general vicinity. So that would mean it would have to be global because there were humans living all over the world at that point, right?
Not necessarily. So, by everyone, that could be Noah's perspective. That could mean all the millennium.
So, dude, what you're doing right now is basically taking the divine out of it. It's like, here are some potentially naturalistic reasons as to the flood story. Thanks, dude. You're doing our job for us. Are you trying to convince us that the flood story is basically a misinterpretation of natural phenomena and is not actually God derived? I mean, do you believe that God's real? Do you believe that it was a divine punishment?
Absolutely. I believe Noah was trapped on an island surrounded by a bunch of unruly zoophiles, and he had no way off the island without putting himself in jeopardy and his family. Property and livestock in jeopardy and needed to be rescued. And at the same time, I believe that the Elohim mistakenly made these millennium lasting phenotypes, and they needed to be wiped out from the human gene pool. And
did it was just a God kill all humans?
Yeah, so no, I think he's saying only a specific. There was a sin population with the wrong phenotypes, and they had to be ethnically cleansed in the local area. I think is what he's saying.
Still rough, man.
Right, Steve.
Oh. Correct.
Yeah, he said correct.
Okay, that's a wild interpretation that has absolutely no scriptural evidence to it. As far as I'm aware, you might want to consult with actual biblical scholars.
I don't know why you'd say Noah lives on an island. He was definitely like in the area that's now known as Iraq.
An island. He could have just gone mountain, right? Escaped the flood.
Coulda.
So
Coulda.
So yeah, but they taught an island, right? Logically.
Well, yeah, that's why he had to build the boat to save the animals. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's, if you want to do your own spin on it, that's fine. But like, the narrative is that everyone dies, everything dies. Like, it's not just a local flood, that it is everything. And so the leftover, in order to prevent the local life from dying, they have to build a boat to save it. That's part of the story. So you can make your own spin on that, but like, that's the story. That's how it presents itself.
And if it's a mega tsunami rather than a flood,
Being told from Noah's.
if it's a mega tsunami rather than a flood, show me the ship that can survive that, because the Ark would be blown to splinters by a wave of that energetic. It'd be tossed like a paper cup. Nothing about the story makes any sense when you take into account like the laws of physics, for example, or animal husbandry.
If we're already talking about divine intervention, there's no point talking about the physical parts of it anyway, because you can just put any inconsistency in the story as part of divine intervention. So I don't know. You're between a rock and a hard place here, Steve.
Okay, so NASA's double asteroid redirection test altered the trajectory of a 500-foot-long asteroid. This experiment demonstrated that technologically advanced spacefaring beings coordinating a space force containing 500 million ion-beam Shepard spacecraft could have indeed strategically guided, during the course of a century, some 100 billion jet-sized intrasolar tesimals to Earth's orbit, thereby over-precipitating the Earth's atmosphere and consequently flooding the entire Earth with half-a-mile rainfall over the course of 40 days and 40 nights. And this, in conjunction with a half-mile wave agony tsunami from cratering, coordinating.
So it's chariots of the gods.
Steve, I can't help you, man. I'm sorry. I'm not your guy.
I think you and I, Dan, have spoken to Steve before. I think we may have had a conversation regarding coding in DNA and pyramids and triangles before, if memory serves. Steve, you're making no sense, mate. Like, it's completely unconvincing. And to segue to modern asteroid redirection experiments, when we're talking about biblical times, like, nowhere in the Bible does it talk about the rockets and shit, man. Like, come on. Are you really honestly thinking this is going to be convincing to us?
But the Bible is told from the perspective of the ancient people.
Yes. In other words, not a spacefaring civilization that can redirect meteors hitting the Earth, right?
Aliens. Yeah, they couldn't have understood that concept of ancient aliens. So it's told from their perspective so they could understand the word.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I'll leave it at this, Steve, because I don't know if I even want to go down this rabbit hole with you, but I'll have you think about this, right? A little concept called Occam's razor. Maybe you've heard of this or not. It talks about how generally the simplest solution tends to be the correct one. Not always the case, obviously, but something to think about. We can either suggest that an ancient group of people encountered an advanced spacefaring civilization that we somehow have no real record of besides coincidental instances of ancient records and stories that don't actually depict encountering an alien race at all, or any of its technology, or any of its culture or language or people, or a story from a couple thousand years ago just made some stuff up, right? I'm choosing the latter in that instance because that seems to cover a lot more ground than any explanation that's going to involve ancient aliens of really any kind, right? And that's not just going to be true for the Israelites. That'll be true for any story from any ancient civilization that you kind of look at and go, well, I wonder how that happened. I don't think Gilgamesh, got immortality by drinking, space potions from Martians. I just think it was a story about immortality and man's quest to live long and stuff. I mean, there's other things there. I just think there's going to be a simpler explanation pretty much every time you look at this. But I don't know, Steve. Maybe you don't find that convincing. I'll give you a few seconds to respond here, but quite frankly, I don't know if there's anything else to say.
We have all these trees and craters of evidence in the time frame of when the biblical flood happened. We have these 4,800-year-old craters, all of these I mentioned. We have the fact that trees that are older than 4,800 years only exist way up in elevation. So we have evidence that there was a straight flood that happened 4,800 years.
You also have evidence, Steve, that people make shit up.
Yep.
You know?
Like
right?
Like Dan said,
people just make up stories, right? People have stories and cultural stories.
Yeah,
that can sometimes
you're stacking assumption over assumption over assumption, and none of the evidence that you're giving us actually indicates what you're saying. So some trees that are higher up you're saying that there's no trees on lower levels that are older than 4,800 years. I mean, sequoia redwoods are there's trees out there that are 10,000 years old. It's nuts.
You're also talking about trees in other locations that aren't in the Middle East, which is presumably where the story takes place. And if this is also a story about a local phenomenon while simultaneously also being a global flood thing, it's not really making any sense.
That has both divine and naturalistic explanations that also involve aliens. This is a fever dream, man. I don't know how to engage with it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing, Steve. All right. Well, anyway, I'm gonna let you go regardless, because I don't think I can help you. I think maybe send a tweet to Marjorie Taylor Greene and she might retweet you, but we can't help you. You know what I mean? That's beyond. First of all, beyond the scope of Talk Heathen, but also just beyond the scope of just reality. I mean, we got to start from some basics here. We can't just jump into aliens did everything without at least establishing that aliens are even, first of all, a thing. Second of all, made contact with humans. Third of all, interacted with us in such a way that it influenced the Bible and presumably other world cultures. So, I don't know. We're in fantasy land now.
It just has the stench of post hoc rationalization. I believe that ancient aliens are God, and I will fit this narrative into that box. Come hell or high water, pun intended.
Yeah, it's just, and this is my problem with the conspiracy crowd, because I engage with them a lot, and it's just it's just open-mindedness enough to not think things through all the way, right? It's people like the idea of rejecting mainstream narratives, but they don't like fleshing it out all the way. They just want to have enough information to, I don't know if it's just to prove other people wrong or what. It's just it's just a strange thing that some people are just interested in. I don't know. I don't have all the answers there. What I do know is that we have some super chats that I should read out that we've been given since last time we read some out. One comes from Rainbow Wolf, who gave $4.99 and said, Anubis revealed himself when I got on my knees. He shined and showed me all that he can. He dances in the sand and blesses the Holy Land. I feel is this a song lyrics? I believe this is song lyrics that I'm not familiar with.
Maybe.
Do you know this, Jamie?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, if it is song lyrics, thank you for the song lyrics. That sounds really cool. If it's not song lyrics, you should write song lyrics, because those sound like they would be. But yeah, I think this is going back to our previous caller with Danny, the whole, we got to get on our knees for 3 days and pray, I guess, which he was a troll, but there's people who unironically believe that sort of thing, of course. Another one from Nero, and who gave Nero, and then there's a symbol that I don't know. I don't know what that symbol is, but I've seen it before. But I'm just going to say Nero gave $5. It said, Danny, you're going to be happy in heaven knowing people are being eternally tortured. Channels ripped off forever. Look at what you're calling good, for fuck's sake. And yeah, it's silly. Obviously, Danny was later revealed in the called to be a troll. Probably should have been obvious from the beginning. But
and it's been said by other hosts on other shows that while it's difficult, we have to give the benefit of the doubt to people calling in. They may be honest. Now, Poe's law is there, and we do have sort of we get the troll kind of sense coming in. But when you're on this side of the camera, and I'm in the audience on some of these shows, and I'm like, troll. It's very easy to do that. But when you're on this side of the camera, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt to just try and engage. And like you say, Dan, like there are people out there that believe these kinds of things for real. And so while the troll themselves may be trying to have a bit of a laugh, we can still use them as an object lesson as to, these ideas are still bunk, and let's tell you why.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. It just is unfortunate. I'd rather talk to people who are being real than anything. But we can't always get what you want. But you can try sometimes.
You might find you get what you need,
You get what you need. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the closest that Greg, our producer, will ever let me come to reproducing song lyrics, because he will yell at me otherwise. If even so much as a pitch change in my voice comes out, that's it. No singing loud. We can't let the copyright demons, haunt our videos.
Yeah, got to admit that YouTube's AI is a bit hair trigger, so we got to be careful.
Yeah. Let's talk to another caller, though, shall we? We have Eduardo, who I just recently spoke to on Truth Wanted on Friday, calling in again on Talk Heathen. And it's called in Talk Heathen before. Eduardo from Brazil, live on Talk Heathen. What's going on? Eduardo, you are live. You can. There we go. Hello, Eduardo.
Can you hear me? Yeah, right.
Yep, we can hear you now. What's up?
Delay, I think.
Yeah.
It's okay. So you throw a question out there. I don't even know if you remember doing that. You throw a question after I finished the call. If I'm a lawyer, would I accept the same kind of evidence that I accept for spiritism?
Yes. I said that after we had a conversation. For those who aren't familiar, we had a conversation on Truth Wanted, and you talked about your evidence, and I was surprised by the caliber of your evidence. And after the call, I made the comment, because you had mentioned you were a lawyer, that if you were to present the evidence you gave me in a court of law, if you thought that would be acceptable evidence. So I'm curious to see your response to that.
The answer, incredible as it may seem to you, is actually yes. There's actually precedent for that here. And
so just to reiterate, because the evidence you gave me, we were talking about reincarnation, and the evidence you gave me, Eduardo, was, well, you know how sometimes you meet somebody and it feels like you've known them their entire life. That's evidence for reincarnation. And I was surprised that was what you gave me.
That's probably, yeah, but that's the thing. And it's actually a pretty. I wasn't part of that. I know that as president, and it was a pretty. It is actually a pretty delicate case, because it's a what's it called, a show house, I guess. That caught on fire, and most people died because they couldn't get out of there. And during the trial, one of the lawyers of the owner decided to actually consult a medium, and well, he kind of did that. Nobody thought that would be acceptable, despite the guy having a history.
Wait a minute, hold on. This case you were involved in, they accepted the testimony of a medium?
No, I wasn't involved in that.
In lieu of somebody else's testimony, like they were speaking through them or something? Why was a medium there?
Yeah, it was to talk on behalf of the victims. That's why I say that it's a pretty delicate case.
Okay, yeah. I first of all, any medium that says they can speak on behalf of people who have passed is a fraudster.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I'll be the first to say that.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, and so did he. He said, it's probably because mediums. I mean, the serious kind. They don't choose who they contact. they are contacted. So,
well,
listen.
I mean, mediums make up the fact that they are contacting the dead and pretend to be somebody else.
And have been caught
Right.
out so many times. You can just look. There's compilations of mediums getting it horrifically wrong. One of my favourites is one medium who believed that they could find or could talk to the spirits of deceased people, and was shown a photo of a little girl and said, "Well, can you detect whether she's there?" And the photo was of the woman that was handing her the photo as a child.
Live, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know where you're coming from, Eduardo. Like, you just everything you've just said just makes me think that spirituality is bunk. I mean, if you're trying to prove that spirituality is good and that it should be taken seriously enough to be used in a court of law, you're doing a bit of a bad job of it, Chief.
And no, and that's the thing. So he actually said he probably wouldn't. Did he actually? Was contacted, and I remember that case because at that time I didn't believe. I was already graduated in law and everything. So the problem is he got it right, the things that people didn't know, and the problem is this. It wasn't supposed to be accepted even then, but it actually was, and that kind of like it was big news here because some people say, well, it shouldn't be, it should be, it should. Me, I really think that in that case it was supposed to be irrelevant because.
What's the point of all this?
Wait, hold on, wait. Can I ask a clarifying question? Were you actually a part of this case personally, or are you just reporting something that happened in Brazil?
No. It's precedent. It's jurisprudence.
Okay, but you weren't involved in this case yourself professionally.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Because if you were, I was gonna be like, Eduardo, you gotta up your lawyering game, bud. Because if the other side is presenting a witness as a medium and speaking for the dead, there, like, you gotta call that shit out. Yeah, like that's, I mean, like, come on, in your shoes, right? I mean, if you were to examine that case, if you were to be a part of that case, how could you not ask the court to completely throw that out, right? How could you ever accept that as legitimate in any way, shape, or form?
That's the thing. The other side actually asked for it to be thrown out, but it wasn't.
Shut up! Really? Are you serious? Wait, the other? Oh my God! No, that's terrible.
We're on some Phoenix Wright shit right here, yeah? I'm channeling the spirits of the dead.
That's literally in Phoenix Wright.
Yeah.
That's not even a joke. That is actually the plot of Phoenix Wright in the first few episodes.
That's a problem. I don't think I wouldn't do it if I was the lawyer, not because I don't believe, because I actually do, but because it's irrelevant. I mean, if you commit a crime, there are two victims. There's the victim of the crime, and that's the state, because the state can't allow the crime. So, and this case, it was negligence. So even if the victim said something, it isn't relevant.
Yes,
but
I agree.
It was accepted. Some people think that actually it counted on the measure of the penalty, although you can't see that because it's just accepted, but it wasn't in the
Eduardo, let me stop you there, Chief. Eduardo, please, let me ask: is the purpose of this call that you are making today to try and advocate for the existence of the spiritual?
Yeah. Are you pro mediums?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them.
Why some of them though? Let's talk about that, because I think that leads credence to some of your other ideas when it comes to spiritism. Why should I believe literally any medium ever?
Well, you should believe when you didn't fill a questionnaire, for example, and they give details of your life that nobody knows, quoting passages of your life, not in general, not it happened when you were doing, really quoting. That's when it
Okay. So I'm gonna rattle off a few terms here, Eduardo. Hot reading, cold reading, Barnum statements. There are so many psychological tricks, especially in the day and age of social media. Like, if I go to a medium, I bet they could tell me so many things about me just by watching the videos I've been in. Like, you're not being very convincing there, Chief. There are so many ways to make the credulous believe that you have knowledge beyond their thing. You don't have to be flipping Peter Pop. Was it?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, in today's world, it's even harder, it's even easier to get away with it, because all you have to do is Google somebody's name before you meet them, and you can find their social media. You can find a whole bunch of stuff about them, and they've done this. Thomas Westbrook has a whole series on his YouTube channel about how, they've taken these mediums and they put out fake social media profiles of people out there. And so when those people go to meet the mediums are quoting stuff from their fake social media profiles that aren't actually from their real life. I mean, there's tons of mediums that do this kind of stuff. There's a lot of these tricks to the trade. If I went to a medium and they were telling me some sort of dark secret about my past that was extremely explicit in detail, that nobody has ever known, then yeah, that would be one thing, but that's never happened. It hasn't happened to me, and I don't think it's actually ever happened to anybody that's ever been to a medium, because I don't think that they have the power to do that, man. Like, I just don't think that there's ever been a case that a medium has been demonstrated without reasonable doubt that hey, they're legit, so I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's like, we can't be relying on fraudsters for proof of spiritism here, or any kind of a reincarnation, or the supernatural, or anything. That's not going to cut it. We gotta do better than that, right?
Right, but that's exactly the kind of thing I've seen it. But and if you, well, everybody would say that, but if you knew me, I mean, if you knew me, well, for my whole life, you would kind of like, just for the kind of frame of mind that I the kind of guy, you would, it would actually give some credence, because I don't impress easily. It sounds like that.
Okay, wait, Eduardo, here's what you do. Okay, here's what you do. You say you know a medium? You know a medium that you like?
Right.
Can you get them to talk to me on this show? Can you get them to talk to one of us on the call-in show? Can we make that happen?
I don't know. I don't know if they speak English, but I can try for.
Okay. If you can get a medium to talk to one of our call-in show hosts, and we will not be paying a dime, by the way. We won't pay for it. If they ask for money, the ACA we will not give money to fraudsters. I'm just gonna let you know right now. But if they're willing to do it, maybe tell them we get you some free publicity. We can set that up, because we can definitely show people at least live on the air why this stuff just doesn't work, right? Or at least, isn't convincing to us. But I don't know. That's just an idea, Eduardo. Because I mean, I can't do anything with you telling me, wow, this person knew stuff that I didn't tell them, because that's not specific for us to really talk about, right?
Yeah. But let me just say something. By the way, serious mediums actually don't ask for money. They can't be paid for that. They can't even accept donations.
I mean, well, maybe I'll talk with our producer. Maybe we can arrange a good donation if we feel like the medium has fulfilled our criteria or something. All right, no, Richard is shaking his head at me. No, we won't even do that. We won't even pretend. Never mind. But okay, fine. If they're good mediums and they won't accept money, even better, right? We'll take free mediums, but we'll talk to them on the show. But like, man, that's I don't know. Can't do much with just. I talked to a medium one time and they convinced me.
Yeah, there's more motivations than money as well. If you are convinced that you have powers and you're delusional, you still want to sort of show your powers. And any time that any supernatural phenomena has been actually independently tested, it's always been found.
I'll do this. Okay, we won't do the ACA. Maybe I'll put up my own personal money. How about that? I'll pay them myself if I'm convinced that that the medium did their job, and we can put it in a pot somewhere.
Oh, I mean, James Rand did it for years. $1 million waiting for you if you can prove the supernatural, and no one ever did. So yeah.
But that would make for some good content. I think, Eduardo. I'd be willing to do that.
If they're willing to call and do it free, but don't do it, man. Don't give them money, because that actually interfere, and that actually can lead them, if the guy's not strong enough to refuse, that can lead them to a very dark place.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Because if you use those gifts and for money, for any advantage, you start attracting less serious spirits, and sometimes even evil spirits, and you go to a pretty dark place. I know somebody who did that.
Eduardo. I don't know, man. That's a whole other can of worms. I don't know if I can talk to you about the personal motivations of evil spirits with you after everything we talked to. We're out of time with this call, man. Yeah. We've already talked about so much other stuff, but I do enjoy talking with you. You do present a very interesting perspective that I enjoy exploring with you. But I have to let you go now because we got some other folks on the line. Eduardo, if you can find a medium to talk to us on the show, I will give you a standing ovation, because that's doing work for us. All right, let's be real. That's giving us content. So I'll thank you for that. But that'd be sick. If we can talk to a medium on Talking Heathen, that would make my day. So let me know if that's possible for you. If not, whatever. We'll just have our regular conversations. But that'll be something. That'll be something for both of us, I think. But I will let you go now. Thanks so much, Eduardo, for your conversations with us. My goodness. Oh, man.
It's just a story. I'm going to tell you some stories and hope they're convincing. And I'm like, they're not. And I don't really know what to do with that.
Yeah.
We bang on about wanting evidence, but it really is important, because I can tell stories. It doesn't mean that they're true.
I mean, I've been getting ads on my Reddit for like mediums in the California area specifically. I don't know why. I think there's some sort of California medium company.
I mean, I definitely saw that story that was going around about a little person who was convicted of fraud for using tarot cards to defund people. They say there's a small medium at large.
Here we go. I found the business. Yeah, I won't say their name out loud, but there is a specific psychic business that I've been getting a lot of advertisements for. So at least some of them are asking for money. Maybe those are just the fake ones and not the real mediums. Because that's the thing too. If mediumship was real, right, there would inevitably be people that would fake it. Yeah. So that is something to consider.
And it's like, don't you find it strange that every time someone goes in for like past life regression, hypnosis and stuff, they always had a really interesting life. It was never, you were born, you got polio at 7 and died, and that's it.
Right.
That was your past.
It's always, you were Jesus, actually.
Yeah, you're a maid in the houses of the courts of Versailles or whatever. It's always really interesting. You never just your name was Jeff and you died of consumption.
Your name was Jeff, and you didn't look both ways before crossing the street one day, and that was it. So yeah, I don't know. It never seems to be that way. But you're right. Yeah, I just want to talk to a medium on Talk Heathen. That'd be sick. That'd be sick. I would love that so much, honestly. But anyway, let's get to our next caller here. We have D, who is calling in from Iowa, and D, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
Brand new.
Good. Dee, thanks for waiting on the line. What can we do for you today?
No worries. Look, I just want to throw out there to your first caller how obscene it is to tell somebody they didn't try hard enough. When I was little, my mother was excessively physical with me. And one day, after a particularly horrendous event, I actually passed out just from trauma, and got myself a vision of Jesus. He wasn't there to help or anything. He just stood there looking at me, and I just felt this crushing sense of disappointment. And I was about 7 years old at the time, and I decided, because I had just heard about Jesus at Vacation Bible School the previous summer, and how Jesus wanted us to tell our friends about him and save them. And so I thought, if I saved enough of my friends for Jesus, maybe he would step in and stop everything. And I held on to a sense of trying to appease Jesus and God for years into my adult life, praying, evangelizing. And so
that's rough, Dee. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I think if Jesus was real and he really cared about us, maybe he shouldn't show up in times of trauma. And we should just, be around for, other things besides the worst moments in our life. Really sorry to hear that happened to you.
I know now. Yeah, thank you. I know now, of course, that it wasn't really Jesus, but at that age, this is kind of ironic, is that my mom put up I'm sure you've all seen that portrait, the light-skinned, brown-haired, blue-eyed Jesus looking up with a soft light falling gently on his face, and my mom put that picture up in my room. I didn't put it up there; Mom did. And I feel so enraged when Christians tell us that. People shelling out thousands of dollars to the healer on TV, speaking in tongues and saying, "I've got somebody out there with liver disease," and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like mediums, those people, they take advantage of other people, and it's not a good scene. We're totally against those types of people as well. The worst kinds of Christians, honestly, are those kinds. The ones that profit over people in times of desperateness.
And we have colleagues in the community here that have presented on these shows. I'm not going to go name names, but you can find their testimony on videos, that desperately wanted God to be real. They agonized over losing their faith, and it was the most painful thing that happened to them to lose it, because it was their life, their whole life. But they couldn't keep the faith because reason just wouldn't let them. And so when, like you say, when a Christian comes along and says, well, you just weren't doing it right, you weren't good enough, yes, that is enervating. Now, I've never been a believer, not really. So I don't have that kind of personal experience of losing faith. But I can imagine how gut-wrenching it can be to have something so important to you not torn away, but just break down, and have nothing to replace it other than the cold, hard light of reality. So yeah, I vicariously can get on board with that anger, that the arrogance of these people who would say that you just weren't good enough, didn't pray hard enough.
Yeah, mm-hmm. You weren't a real Christian.
The no true Scotsman fallacy. Yeah.
Oh, but I just hope he's still listening and knows what a jackass he sounded like when he said that.
Oh, he knows. That's what he was here for, just having a laugh. But as we've said before, he may have been taking the piss, but there are plenty of people out there who honestly do believe that. And they have to, because if they come down to the fact that it doesn't matter how hard you pray, it doesn't matter how much you believe, there is nobody listening, then they would have to come face to face with the reality that they don't have Daddy in the sky looking after them, and there is no plan. So yeah, that's their defense. They externalize it and make it a kind of violence against other people, because if they don't, then they would have to look inward, and they don't want to do that.
Yeah, there is always a moral hierarchy that has to be set. And the hierarchy is that believers are always better than non-believers. So if you are a non-believer, it is something that's your fault. It has to be something that's your fault, because if it's not, then what's this hierarchy for, right? Why am I doing all this work? Why am I going to church? Why am I praying? Why am I going to Bible study? Why am I censoring the words that I speak? Why do I have to wait for sex before marriage? Why am I doing all this stuff if none of it is real, right? There has to be some sort of justification. So at least you get something out of it. And that's just part of the con of it all, unfortunately.
Well, I just wanted to say, it's Sunday afternoon. Lots of people have been to church. And if you had somebody tell that to you today, please know that this is not anything that you are or are not doing. That if your pastor has to tell you that, then he doesn't really know what he's talking about at all.
Amen.
Oh.
Amen.
There's hope. Anyway.
Cosign and retweet. D, I'm all about it. I love it. Thank you for that. Was there anything else you want to share with us before we let you go today?
No, thanks for taking my call, guys. You have a great day.
Thank you, D. You too. You too.
Best. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. It's the worst. It's one of my, I've been doing this stuff long enough to where a lot of stuff doesn't annoy me too much anymore, because you kind of just hear stuff over and over again. The whole "you were never a Christian" thing, that's the one that still kind of gets me a little bit, being honest. Because
it's basically call me a liar without calling me a liar.
Yeah. It's just it's a self-referential cage that you put yourself into, right? It's a logic trap, because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, if you're already a believer, then good, you already get all the benefits. But if you ever struggled with that then suddenly you just aren't good enough, right? And so that either propels you into Christianity again, right? So that you don't have those kinds of doubts and you don't break away from that thinking, or you end up like me, I guess. So that might be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you ask. But regardless of that, I do have some top 5 patrons that I need to get to. And then I think we'll have time for maybe one more call after that. Lord be willing. Cthulhu be willing? I don't know. I don't know what you want to do with that. But let's get to the top 5 patrons here as soon as I have it in front of me, which I do now. The number 1 patron from our top 5 patrons is Oops, all singularity, of course. Of course. Next, number 2 is Dingleberry Jackson. Number 3 is Kalevi Helvetti. Number 4 is Brian Zipke. Number 5 is J.A. Calton. And our honorable mention this week goes to Moldred D. Malcontent. Thank you guys so much for donating. And if you'd like to become a top 5 patron or just a patron in general, you can definitely do that by going to tiny.cc/Patreon and potentially get your name read. And on that note, we have started doing the Talk Heathen Discord after show. And we have recordings of that for all levels of paid patrons. So if you want more content and you want a more informal look at some of the hosts, join the Patreon to catch up on some of that content. So with that, I think we got time again. We're gonna try to be real quick with this. We'll get to musical instruments calling in from Virginia. Musical instruments. You're live on Talk Heathen. Again, we'll try to keep it real short because we're at the tail end of the show here. But we want to get you in. So musical instruments, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
No problem. I'll make it quick. I've talked to you before, Dan. I wanted to talk to Jamie really quick about what he said at the beginning of the show about, and I don't want to misquote you, Jamie. You said something about if there was one thing you could take from the religions or people who believed, it would be that idea that there's a plan and that everything's okay. Is that something like what you said?
The comfort in believing that no matter how bad things can get, that it's for a reason, and that the realization that the world and the universe at large is not planned. It just is. Gives very little in the way of comfort, but can give freedom. I'm an optimistic nihilist myself.
Okay, and with that freedom, I'm free to paint my own picture of what I believe. So I don't fall into the binary Christian, non-Christian, because that I see as a trap. I see it as it's not a place I want to go that either it is or it isn't. I look at other books, I look at other sources, but what I'm really interested in is how we can find that idea that everything is okay and always will be.
It won't. Sometimes bad things happen for no reason.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately a disadvantage of our position, right? Being a non-believer position is that we don't really have a higher power to ascribe to things both good and bad, right? So if the universe just is what it is, the universe just is what it is. We're thankful for the times when things are good to us, and we're hopeful when times when things are bad to us that the bad times won't last as long. And that's pretty much all we can do. But we also think it's the most honest thing we can do because, I mean, if we just lie to ourselves and think that there is something else out there watching over us, then that's not going to necessarily make things better. Sometimes making things better is beyond our control, but sometimes it isn't. And that's when we have to organize, do some work, and try to get things done. But yeah, that would be our perspective. What do you think?
Lying to oneself. Are we not the authors of our own journey, so to speak? I guess I don't understand the lying to the self.
Sure. Well, so when I was doubting, and I'm doing this with the context musical instruments that I know that you've encountered Christian culture. You were a part of Christian culture. I remember our conversation last time, right? When I was a Christian and I identified as such, I was at a time also halfway in the atheist camp, but not quite atheist, right? I was kind of going through this back and forth, and I kept myself in Christian community. And it wasn't until I was really seeing the harm that even my very own Christian community was doing that I had to absolutely abscond myself. Okay, I had to absolutely leave and realize I had to just pick a side here and meander, because I was trying to play both sides. I was trying to get the benefits of being a Christian, the privilege that comes with being a Christian, the friends that come with being a privilege, being a Christian, while also trying to have the intellectual honesty of atheism and like listening to podcasts and reading books and exploring all this stuff. And I realized, like, I couldn't mesh both of these worlds together. And I think that's what some people do. I think some people who like don't want to put a label on whatever they're doing, it's just like them trying to get the benefits of all things here, right? And that's what I was doing for a long time. And I had to just come honest with myself and realize, yeah, there probably isn't a real Christianity. It's probably always going to be a man-made thing. It's probably, God is always probably going to be a man-made thing. If there is a higher power, I don't know him, and he's certainly not communicating with me. So I just kind of had to accept life for what it is. I think there's a lot of people that are in that spot in between, right? So I guess that's what I mean by lying to myself.
Forced to make a choice. Forced to make a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what atheism is doing to push back against religion is necessary. I think religion has to be pushed back against.
Well, atheism itself isn't.
I don't disagree with you.
Atheism is just an answer to a question. Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
Anti-apologetics.
Whoever is doing the pushing back, it needs to be done. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for, baby.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
that's what we're about.
Yeah, and that's necessary. But I mean, on a personal level, what's wrong with seeking? I don't see any problem with it, as long as it doesn't harm others or I'm not spreading, my ideas to anyone else. What's wrong with the personal journey?
Because the thought patterns that are required to engage in belief of higher powers or supernatural things, I believe, are inherently flawed. And much like anything that can bring comfort that's dangerous, I treat magical thinking and belief in the supernatural the same way as I would treat like alcohol or drugs. Yeah, you can dabble. Maybe you'd be cool and functional with it, but it's still dangerous and harmful. So if you think you can handle it, baby, you go ahead.
No.
But I am still going to argue against it on principle.
I think I would probably answer a little bit differently than Jamie. I think what I would say is,
I want to know about the dangers. I want to know about the danger, though.
Because, to quote, I believe, I can't remember who it was, if you can believe in idiocy, you can be convinced to atrocity. Like, if you don't make your beliefs comport with what is evidenced, with what is demonstrable, then you can be convinced of so many things. Like, being credulous is dangerous, and it can be as little as, this Nigerian prince really wants to send me $10,000, or it can be gay people should be killed. And it's all coming from the same flawed epistemology of my feelings on this are more important than the evidence against it.
So, like, I would answer this like a little bit differently, I think, from Jamie, because open-mindedness isn't the problem here, right? It's more about what we give credence to, what we don't. So in the history of the United States, for example, there have literally been laws, right, that have been made, the fairness doctrine. Maybe you've heard about this. When it comes to like climate change, when we talk about this, where basically, we're giving coverage to climate change, you pretty much always have to give some climate change skeptic on every time they talk about it, even though that's not the majority opinion of scientists, right? It's not the majority thinking in the scientific community. But by giving that effect that they're both kind of on equal playing field, that gives more of a credence than what's necessarily warranted to these other ideas. And I think that's the problem that comes with being in this sort of, in this seeking kind of mindset, which again, I encourage being open-minded, absolutely. But I'm not going to pretend that all ideas are equal, right? So if you were to tell me, for example, what's wrong with me seeking? I just want to figure out more of the stories of L. Ron Hubbard and, what his teachings can find me. I'll give you a whole list of why Scientology is bad, right? And you would probably say, well, that's ridiculous, right? Everybody knows that Scientology is bad and all the things that come with it. The thing is, I'm not sure everybody is convinced as why Christianity is bad, right? Or why Islam can be as bad, right? Like they absolutely do have demonstrable harm, maybe perhaps not as radically pinpointed as Scientology, But David Koresh was successful, for example, because of Christianity's success, right? Like, sometimes these ideas can piggyback off each other into real unexpected, directions. So it's not that I'm against being open-minded. I'm just more so against all ideas being on equal ground, because I just don't think that's the case. I think you still have to apply skepticism to whatever ideas you explore.
I do like John Oliver's analogy of that. It's like, it would be madness to eat this bar of soap, so I'll just take a bite.
No, I understand. So the world is changing to the point where one must take a side, or one is not. If I remain neutral, I'm really doing nothing. Is that kind of what you're saying?
In my opinion, neutrality is always, always, always in the benefit of the oppressor. Right? Right. The people who fought for, equal rights in this country had to fight. They didn't just, let laws be the way they were. There were things that were wrong that were happening, and people had to speak up in order for things to change. Right. There's a reason why we're still struggling with racial inequality and gender inequality in this country. And it's because not enough work has been done yet. People have not heard enough, and change has not been made enough for that. And that wasn't just because of people listening to the status quo. That's because people are speaking up. So I choose to interpret my response into doing stuff like this. You do what you want, man. If you think that this kind of stuff is good and you want to join the fight, that's great. But in my opinion, neutrality always favors the oppressor. And so I'm not going to be neutral. I choose to make a stand.
Yeah, and neutrality is a choice. Okay. Like, people say, "Oh, I don't want to choose." No, you've chosen.
Yeah.
By being neutral, you're saying I'm fine with the status quo.
Well, I didn't say neutral forever, but I think in a given time it's okay until I figure out where I want to stand. I can sort of not.
I agree.
Make a stand.
I agree. It's necessary and important for you to take your time to figure out what you believe. I don't want to rush you in any kind of process. I would never say that to anybody. But at this point, for me, right, I know too much, right? Like I'm too deep in the paint to go the other direction. You know what I'm saying? Like I at some point I had to do that. And that's a personal thing. You got to figure out for yourself when it's right for you. Right. Same thing with veganism. I've talked about this. At some point I was debating it so much in my head. I just had to figure out where I was at with it. And I made my choice. I think that's true for a lot of social issues. People just eventually have to figure it out. But yeah, man, go on your journey, figure shit out. But I will tell you what I think. Right. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I think some stuff's better than other stuff, and I'll tell you. But anyway, I think that's about all the time that we got. Musical instruments. Was there anything else you want to add before we let you go?
No, you've summed it up well. And I think what I take from this is it's not just about, because I was perceiving it as just religion versus the other side, meaning organized religion. But you would encourage me to be skeptical in all the ideas. I think Jamie said supernatural and some other words.
Yeah, anything that requires magical thinking that isn't based in what can be evidenced in the natural world, in reality. I find that the type of thinking that is necessary to go down that road can be warped and used and exploited to extremely nefarious ends.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Thank you all both very much, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Musical Instruments, and I hope you have a great day as well. What a fucking cush call. What an excellent call right there. Oh my goodness.
Good one to round it out. While I wouldn't say that every call we've had today has been good, they've all been very useful.
That was my favorite. And here's why. Because Musical Instruments, and we talked to him before, that is an honest fucking man right there. Okay? He's got some fucking doubts about us atheists. And he tells us in the best way possible. And you know what? It is our job to answer that responsibly. We cannot be authoritarian in our response.
No.
We can't. We can't be like, hey, you have to say Christianity is bad or you're a bad person. That's too simplistic. It's not going to work. because we're doing the same thing that we are criticizing other people of, right? We have to help people navigate that experience so that they can come to that conclusion themselves. Because otherwise, what are we doing?
And we must always be willing to change our point of view if the evidence, if reality. I mean, I've held terrible opinions in the past. I look back on myself as a younger man and go, "You bloody idiot." And I'm glad I had the intellectual honesty and flexibility of mind to go, yeah, no, I should stop believing that and move forward.
Yeah, if there's one thing I've been saying for years, and it's something that I hold to more than anything else that I've ever talked about on any program, it is you can be right and you can be convincing, but those are two separate things. Okay? Two separate things. You have to think about that every time you communicate your message to people, because you can be right till the cows come home. You can be right on every single issue. But if I don't fucking believe you, then what's the point? Right? Why are we talking? Why are you communicating ideas if you're not convincing other people as to why you hold the position that you do? We cannot just be top down about this stuff every single time, because we got to show people how we got there, right? You got to walk it through with people, because if you're honest with yourself, for most of us, at least for me, you had to have your own journey, man, right?
Yeah.
So don't let people have fucking journeys with it, but don't compromise in your own position either. Don't just say what you think they need to hear and change your own mind on something either, right? Don't be against your own principles, but you still got to recognize where people are at and meet them where they can hear what you're saying. Anyway, I'm going on a rant here, but that's my feelings.
Pop off.
That's my feelings about it, Jamie.
Yep.
That being said, we are getting towards the end of tonight's program. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to tune into the Atheist Experience later today, if you like, and of course, showing an episode of the Nonprofits in between. But hey, the Super Chat Challenge, we didn't get to it today. That's okay. Next time, maybe we can make Jamie do his thing. I'd be down to see that. But thank you to everybody who donated regardless. And remember that this week's prompt is going to be, as soon as I can find it, I'll tell you, because I don't see it on here.
If the New Testament was a comedy, how would it end?
Thank you. It's been a minute since I've been on Talking, and the script is different from the Truth Wanted one, and I get confused on my notes. So thank you, Jamie. I literally had to have a blind person tell me what the prompt was on the page, which is not a good look for me. But you did it for me anyway, Jamie. Thanks for that.
I live to embarrass you, Chief.
I will love that. We'll talk about that more on the Dan and Jamie podcast, now premiering live every Saturn day. It's the day in between Saturday and Sunday, only on TikTok for Americans. So that'll be really cool. Okay, so I want to thank Richard, of course, for hanging out today and being our backup host, giving me nods of approval and stern shakes of the head no for disapprovals, especially for ACA related funds and donations and what we can and can't do as an organization. Really appreciate that, keeping me in line. Of course, want to thank Jamie, my co-host today. Thanks so much.
And our wonderful crew too. I mean, we're up here flapping our gums, and there's a score of people behind the scenes making it possible for us to do this.
Yep. Awesome, amazing crew. Look how many people are here today, all showing up doing their thing. An amazing amount of hair in various locations, mustaches, beards, sometimes in not places either. It's a lot of stuff going on with the hair with our crew. Really good stuff. I think I've read all in the super chats. I think we're good for that. I think we still are having a after show today, right?
I believe so.
That's happening.
So. Yep.
Richard says yes. So go check out our after show at tiny.cc/ACD Discord to see the fan run show that happens for the Talk Heathen after show. And with that, do you want to give some love rings, Jamie? You want to do the honors?
Love, many love.
Woo! Ooh, look at that. It's coming out Richard's nose.
I love snot.
For a second there. Yeah. It's really cool. If you ever listen to this in audio and you wonder what the heck that happens there, it's just a cool little effect that happens visually. I don't know if that ever translates well to the audio audience of our show, but that's what's happening. So just remember, folks, as we close out tonight's broadcast, if you don't believe, this is your community, and we appreciate you being here. And if you do believe,
we don't hate you. We're just not convinced.
Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live, Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.